Hello there, and welcome. You found your way to calm, boring, sleepy history, a quiet corner of the past where time moves softly, like candlelight flickering on stone. Tonight, we drift back to the shadowed lanes and firelit chambers of medieval Europe, a world of coarse linen, herbal scents, and the strange, persistent rituals of beauty. This is not the history of battles or crowns, but of humble ointments, whispered remedies, and the slow effort to shape one's reflection in a world without mirrors. We'll wander through 4 peaceful chapters tonight. First, we'll immerse ourselves in the daily beauty routines of ordinary folk, where ash and water met skin in quiet repetition. Then we'll linger with Eleanor of Aquitaine, whose elegance was as calculated as her diplomacy. We'll pause to explore the curious art of medieval cosmetics, a secret language of powders and pastes. Finally, we'll draw back the curtain on the elite, whose lavish rituals contrasted with the humble efforts of the poor. Let your thoughts slow. The rhythm of the Middle Ages was steady, unhurried, and so too will be our journey. Let's begin. Imagine yourself in a medieval village at dawn, perhaps in 13th century England or France. The air is cool, heavy with the scent of damp earth and wood smoke. Roosters crow faintly, and cart wheels creak along muddy paths. In a small cottage, its walls of wattle and daub, you wake on a straw mattress, the air sharp with the chill of morning. This is the world where most lived and tended their appearance, not with glamour, but with quiet, persistent care. For ordinary folk, beauty was a practical act, woven into the day's labor. Water came from streams or wells, carried in wooden buckets that left splinters in the palms. In a dim room, a family gathered around a clay basin, its water cold and faintly earthy. A coarse linen cloth, worn from years of use, dabbed faces clean. Soap, if available, was a harsh lump of animal fat and ash, its smoky scent clinging to the skin. For many, this was enough as simple rinse to greet the day. Hair was a daily challenge. Without shampoo, women steeped rosemary or sage in vinegar, pouring the sharp, herbal liquid over tangled strands. The scent was not sweet, but medicinal, lingering like a healer's charm. Wooden combs, their teeth uneven, tugged through knots, shared among siblings or neighbors. Men cropped their hair short with shears, the blades dull but effective, while beards were trimmed or left to grow, depending on custom and class. Skin was a canvas of belief. Pale complexions, a mark of leisure, were prized, especially for women. In villages, flour or ground chalk dusted cheeks, giving a ghostly pallor that faded by noon. Some used pastes of mashed beans or milk, applied with calloused fingers, hoping to soften rough skin. Teeth were rarely cleaned, though a rag dipped in salt or ash might scrub them weekly, followed by a sprig of mint chewed for breath. The taste was gritty, the ritual brief but deliberate. Clothing was heavy wool tunics and linen shifts that scratched the skin. To mask odors, some tucked dried lavender or rose petals into seams, their faint sweetness a small defiance against the day's sweat. Mirrors were rare. A polished tin disc might offer a blurred reflection, but most relied on touch or a friend's gaze to judge their work. Beauty was not about perfection but persistence, a quiet effort to present oneself with dignity. By midday, the morning's care was undone by labor dust from fields, soot from hearths, grease from cooking. Women might pause to wipe their faces with a damp cloth, men to rinse hands before eating barley bread. The balneum, A local bathhouse was a weekly luxury for some. It steamed thick with the scent of burning herbs. Here, families scrubbed with shared sponges, the water murky but warm, the air alive with soft chatter. Evening brought a final rinse cold water splashed from a jug, hair braided to prevent tangles, hands wiped clean of the day's work. In the flicker of a tallow candle, its light casting shadows on rough walls, the act of cleansing was a pause, a moment to shed the world's weight. It was not grand but comforting, like the creak of a wooden bench or the distant howl of a night wind. Beauty, like life, moved slowly, binding each day to the next. Let us pause here by a well's edge, where a woman dips her bucket, her hands steady, her eyes catching the dawn's first glow. The village stirs softly around her, and the day, like her routine, unfolds without haste. Now we shift our gaze to a figure whose beauty was both a tool and a legend. Eleanor of Aquitaine, born around 1122, a woman whose elegance shaped kingdoms. Duchess of Aquitaine, Queen of France, then Queen of England, Eleanor moved through courts with a presence as deliberate as her diplomacy. Picture her in a stone chamber at Poitiers, its walls hung with tapestries, the air scented with rosemary and wax. A silver mirror, rare and dim, rests on an oak table, reflecting her face in soft, wavering light. Eleanor wakes slowly, her breath visible in the morning chill. A handmaiden parts woolen curtains, letting dawn spill across the floor. A basin of rose water, warmed over coals, awaits her. She washes her face, the cloth gliding gently, its faint floral scent a luxury few could afford. Her hair, long and chestnut, is brushed with a bone comb, each stroke slow, the strands oiled with a blend of olive and myrrh from distant markets. Pale skin, a mark of her status, is dusted with crushed lily root, giving her a delicate, almost ethereal glow. As a young duchess, Eleanor learned to wield appearance as power. Her education, Latin, music, etiquette taught her to command a room without speaking. In France, as Louis VII's queen, she joined the Second Crusade, her robes flowing through dusty camps, her poise unshaken by heat or hardship. Chroniclers noted her grace, her hazel eyes, her voice that carried songs in Occitan and French. Yet beauty was strategy. She dressed to inspire, to bind loyalties, to soften negotiations. After her annulment, she married Henry II of England, navigating a new court with new rules. Her gowns, dyed with costly indigo or madder, signaled wealth, while her headdresses, silk veils pinned with pearls, spoke of piety and refinement. She applied lead-based paste to her face, its pale sheen hiding fatigue, though its slow poison was unknown. Her lips, touched with berry juice, hinted at vitality without vanity, a careful balance in a court of watchful eyes. In later years, confined by Henry for supporting her son's rebellion, Eleanor's rituals simplified. In a cold tower, she washed with plain water, combed her hair by candlelight, and wore wool instead of silk. Yet when freed at 60, she returned to public life with undimmed grace, traveling to secure alliances, her presence as commanding as ever. Beauty for Eleanor was not youth but endurance, a quiet power that outlasted exile and age. As we leave her chamber, imagine the flicker of candles, the rustle of her gown, the distant clatter of a castle waking. Eleanor, like her era, rests in silence, her rituals complete, her legacy woven into the slow tapestry of time. Let us now turn to something quieter still, a hidden practice that shaped medieval beauty from beneath the surface, the art of cosmetics, a secret language of powders and pastes. Picture a small wooden box, its lid carved with vines, holding a collection of strange mixtures: crushed chalk, laid paste, berry juice, and herbal salves. In every village and castle, these concoctions were a whispered tradition, passed from mother to daughter, healer to apprentice. Cosmetics were more than adornment, they were belief made tangible. The medieval body was thought to be governed by humors, four fluids balancing health and beauty. A blemish signaled imbalance, a remedy a return to harmony. Women mixed flour with milk to whiten skin, believing it restored the blood's purity. Crushed snails, boiled in vinegar, were applied to fade freckles, their sliminess a sign of potency. Ashes of burnt rosemary rubbed into the scalp promised thick hair, their scent sharp and lingering. In bathhouses, women gathered to share these recipes, their voices soft against the steam. A paste of honey and barley soothed rough hands. A rinse of chamomile and wine brightened hair. Some whispered charms as they applied salves, believing words could coax beauty from within. Others timed their rituals by the moon, waxing for growth, waning for cleansing. Leeches applied to the wrist were thought to purify blood and brighten cheeks, their stain a brief price for hope. Noble women had access to rarer ingredients, crushed pearls, saffron, Arabian oils, but even they relied on tradition. Lead-based ceruse, applied thickly, gave a ghostly pallor prized in courts, though it scarred skin over time. Vermilion, made from mercury, rouged lips and cheeks, its danger hidden beneath its glow. These were not mere vanities, but acts of faith, a way to navigate a world where mirrors were scarce and health uncertain. Archaeologists find traces of these practices in buried pots and vials, their contents long dried but telling. In York, a bone cone lies beside a clay jar of salve, its scent gone but its purpose clear. In monastic records, nuns wrote of herbal rinses, blending piety with care. The recipes varied by region, by wealth, by rumor, but the impulse was universal, to shape the self, to find beauty in a harsh world. Imagine a woman in a dim bathhouse, her fingers dipping into a pot of chalk paste, her reflection unseen but felt. Across the room, another stirs a salve of rose petals, her movements slow, her thoughts her own. The act of mixing, of applying, is a quiet conversation with the past, a hope that beauty might endure. As they leave, their skin flushed, their hearts steady, the ritual lingers, like smoke curling from a dying fire. Now we ascend stone steps into the great halls of medieval nobility, where beauty was not just care but a performance of power. Picture a castle solar, its walls draped with tapestries, its air thick with the scent of beeswax and myrrh. A noble woman sits before a polished silver mirror, her handmaidens arranging her hair with ivory combs, each stroke a ritual of status. For the elite, beauty was daily, deliberate, and dangerous. Servants brought rose water warmed over coals, oils blended with saffron, and linen towels soft as mist. Private bathhouses, rare and luxurious, steamed with herbs, their mosaic floors warmed by fires below. Skin was whitened with ceruse, its lead content a slow poison, masked by its ethereal glow. Lips and cheeks were rouged with vermilion, its mercury a hidden threat. Gowns of velvet or silk, dyed with costly indigo or kermes, draped heavily, their colors a silent boast of wealth. Hair was a crown of its own, bleached with lye, braided with pearls, or hidden under silk veils to signal piety. Men, too, groomed meticulously, their beards oiled with resins, their boots polished to a sheen. In court, every glance judged posture, complexion, attire. Sumptuary laws dictated what could be worn: velvet for nobles, wool for merchants, ensuring beauty reinforced rank. To overstep was to risk fines or scorn. Contrast this with the poor, who lived in thatched cottages or crowded tenements. Water came from muddy streams, carried in buckets that strained the arms. Bathing was weekly, often in cold water with a shared sponge or sand. Skin was dusted with flour, hair rinsed with vinegar, the scent sharp and lingering. Latrines were pits or open ditches, their odors masked by straw or herbs. Clothing coarse wool, rarely washed, held the day's dirt, with only a sprig of lavender to soften the smell. Yet both worlds shared the rhythm of beauty. The poor washed faces at dawn, combed hair before market, scrubbed hands before meals. Their tools were simple wooden combs, ash pastes, but the act was the same, a quiet assertion of dignity. Monasteries and manors alike recorded recipes, from peasant salves to noble ointments, binding high and low in a shared pursuit. In bathhouses, noble women and villagers met, their differences solved by steam and shared hopes. Archaeology reveals this divide. Noble graves hold silver vials and pearl-studded combs, while peasant burials yield clay pots and wooden pins. Yet the desire to be clean, to be seen, united them. Picture a noble woman retiring to her canopied bed, her skin fragrant, her mirror turned away. In a cottage, or family shares a basin, their hands dipping into cold water, their voices soft. The night falls, candles dim, and beauty, like sleep, binds them in a rhythm older than stone. And so the slow rituals of medieval beauty draw to a quiet close. From the smoky cottages of villagers to the perfumed halls of nobility, from the strange art of cosmetics to Eleanor's calculated grace, the rhythm was deliberate, unhurried, steeped in hope. Beauty in the Middle Ages did not dazzle, it endured, like a candle burning through the night. As you rest now, think of how different the pace was. No bright lights, no quick fixes. Only the soft trickle of water, the scent of herbs, the rustle of linen in a quiet room. Beauty was grown carefully, like a garden tended through frost, each act a step toward dignity. It took time, and in that time lives unfolded in patterns of repetition, subtle gestures, and quiet faith. Tonight you've wandered through bathhouses heavy with steam, peeked into chambers alive with candlelight, stood beside Eleanor as she brushed her hair, and paused with a peasant by a well's edge. All shared the same slow dance, a careful crafting, a gentle preparation for rest, the comfort of routine. It's peaceful to imagine a world where beauty was measured not in haste but in care, where to pause was to honor the self. That steady rhythm might feel unfamiliar today, but here in the hush of history, it becomes soothing, like the flicker of a candle at dusk. As you lie still, the past settles softly around you. The voices fade, the fires dim, the water stills, and in the silence that remains there is only calm. Thank you for letting this story keep you company. Sleep well, and may your dreams move at the gentle, steady pace of a medieval morning long ago.